Bungalow Bill here. I am back in the adventure mode, difficulty 90, currently heading for this red portal in the background, going for 95, and then 100. This is very possibly going to be the last episode of the adventure mode, although I'm not entirely certain what's going to happen. We'll just have to find out. Well, that's another perforator, which is what the last episode pretty much ended on, at least near the end of the last episode. But, well, you can't kill too many perforators. And more generally, you just can't kill the white flares too much. So the Tycho will switch into a broadside, which it is immediately switching to the other one because it does have a time-based broadside switch. Although, no, that's because it's attempting to stay over the adventure raft. So far, particle cannons not doing so well. Generally, with the somewhat questionable armor from the white flares, it does not take that many railgun shells before these particle cannons stop doing significant damage. We're returning fire with our own particle cannons as well, but they're fairly weak. It's more for taking care of flyers, nukes, that sort of thing. It's a very high arc on those missiles. I don't think they're that strong. That was not my recollection of them, so hopefully we'll do okay on the interception. I slapped a lot of missile interceptors onto the Tycho. They're medium interceptors, so they might overkill missiles a little bit. That long vertical launch is going to keep the Kitty Hawks safe, though. Unless they go directly into it, which does happen. But one of the big weaknesses of them flying over enemy vehicles is that they'll take direct missile fire sometimes. And there we go with the perforator despawning. Adventure Raft didn't take that much damage. It does have a vehicle under it, the submarine, that has some amount of repair tentacles, although I think I currently have it floating too low to do a whole lot. So it looks like even though we tended to launch our missile interceptors at the decoys because they're just doing their own things, the Tycho doesn't have custom programming on them, the defense is probably still fine. After about 20 minutes in warp difficulty 100, there is an enemy on the horizon. It's the Lightning Hood's Terawatt. Currently, it's just the Tycho opening fire, but, well, at least the Tycho that will hit its opening fire, but the Terawatt is coming in very quickly, so everything else should open fire soon as well. There's a reasonable missile barrage coming in here. We don't have lambs, so we can't... Oh, well, it's going over the lambs from the adventure raft, and they're taking care of us for us. I missed what that was, but I'm assuming it was a particle accelerator cannon, because although I don't fight many of the Lightning Hood's craft in the designer mode, I believe that is what this is carrying. And indeed it is. It is probably not liking this return fire. The Terawatt's not that expensive, at just a little under 700,000. So, yeah, even though there were a lot of blocks falling off there, the Tycho has a lot of blocks, so that didn't really add up to that much. Particle accelerator cannons, very, very powerful alpha strikes in some cases, but their DPS is fairly low for their cost and for the energy expenditure. Obvious upside is that there are absolutely no counters to them. Other than, I guess, a lot of armor, just because they're not the most efficient at taking out armor. It buys you time, at least. Well, that was it for the terawatt. Hopefully we'll start spawning in a bit more pretty soon. We're basically just going to keep going until we see so many enemies that they kill us, or since we're getting a lot of resources right now, there's a strong possibility that I'll wind up with so many that I just built something really expensive. That was a heck of a lag spike. It's the Grey Talon's Empyrean, and it is already sending in its railgun fire from this long distance, which will, given that it's pure solid kinetic shells, do a pretty fantastic amount of damage. There is going to be a little bit of healing coming in from the Kitty Hawk's repair tentacles. I think they're probably healing each other. I sent it in to start providing repairs to the adventure raft, which is just going to take a lot of one-sided damage for a bit, but at least the Tycho's returning fire, the Kitty Hawks are going out. The unfortunate thing about the sailfish is just that they're not fast enough. However, Empyrean, reasonably fast. Taking a bit of damage from incoming railguns, but oh, that was also probably another enemy coming in. Let's just turn on the HUD a little bit to see if there's another enemy indicator. Something on the other side of the Empyrean? No, that's just a nuke indicator, probably. So, perhaps a turret popping. Empyrean sending in some of its missiles. Not a great angle to take those out from the Tycho at the moment. Although that one looks like it just went into the water. Missile interceptors doing some work. Currently the Tycho is staying nice and healthy because the Empyrean is not targeting it. So railgun shells from two different directions, so the adventure raft may still be retaliating. I intended at some point to take the sailfish and hook all of their missiles up onto a single local weapon controller, and then use that to give them a better stagger than they currently have. Unfortunately, at the moment, they send their missiles in way too close of a pack, so they get taken out by missile interceptors too well because they have too tight a range. Tycho got really close for some reason. This isn't great from a perspective of taking incoming missiles because it's not really going to be able to stop them that much. However, it's going to be doing quite a bit of punishment. Those are some GPP and other AI components. Vertical launch missiles must be remote guidance because they're not going for the Tycho, who's right there and is probably about to obliterate all of the Kitty Hawks. Okay, not all of them, but just absolutely dumpstered that one. It looks like the next one's going to be safe as well. I'd be surprised if we're getting nuked too often. We should have decent nuke defenses. Fintraft is down to 92%. That is quite a beating. Tycho's low in the air, but that's probably from trying to evade the Kitty Hawk way, way too late. And the Tycho's now the one taking incoming nukes. Actually, my incoming nuke, although this one has some slight problems with it. It was on the channel recently, but this is not a great variant of it, and I think it took a pack shot, which did something very bad to it. Tycho now seems to be taking a little bit more fire. However, the Empyrean is starting to wander over the rest of the fleet. The Kitty Hawks have still been chipping away at her quite a bit, and now since she's wandering into the rest of the fleet, she's taking a lot of damage from the Sailfish. Those are some pretty big chunks starting to fall out now. Definitely a turret cap there. More GPP. She's falling quickly, so those missiles from the Adventure Raft are not compensating very well, but she's still heroically trying to spawn a few nukes in. But I don't think she has a whole lot of time left. I imagine a pretty significant amount of this damage coming in was actually from the Kitty Hawks, but it can be hard to tell. Okay, so there was something else that spawned in. There were a few other lag spikes, but it was sort of hard to tell at one point or another. This looks like one of the little blobs from the Novgorod. I see some fire going off into the distance, but... Oh, this is the Novgorod herself. My sense of scale is very poor right now, apparently. The little blobs from the Novgorod have probably already been obliterated. Taking a little bit of friendly fire there, but not the worst, and the Novgorod is also going down. Adventure Raft is healed up a little bit, but not that much. I'm going to have to try to get the fleet together for some repairs now if we have a gap before some more enemies spawn in. If they keep spawning in like this, we're just going to die eventually because we aren't going to be able to keep up with the repair rate needed. Alright, we have spawned in another one of the Super Godly flagships. This time, not as terrifying a one as the Grey Talons have. And you can probably guess which one it is based on this massive volley of cram incoming. It is, of course, the Stronghold. Man, even nearly 5 kilometers away, that is a big ship. So what I'm looking for right now are its missile trails incoming. It looks like it's decided that the Tycho is the biggest threat, which might be reasonable, at least for its crams. The Tycho does not have the benefits of the laser defense, and it is not fast enough to dodge these. Right, so the lambs on our Adventure Raft will keep it pretty safe. Tycho does not do any sort of evasion whatsoever, and it does not have the benefit of those lambs. However, the Stronghold is really largely a missile-based craft, and I have lost track of what its missiles were doing. I saw us send some interceptors over. I might have to take manual control of the Tycho to bring her back into our fleet, because she's going to need some help from the defenses of our other vehicles, although there probably aren't a lot of hit points to these missiles, so yeah, this is looking like it's not actually a huge deal. Now let's see how the Stronghold herself is doing. Given that she just has a lot of deck guns, I imagine the firepower on them is already starting to lack a little bit. I'm not sure what the firing arc on them is. It should be pretty good, but she might be manually restricted a little bit. Tycho just switched to broadsides, so is staying in that firing arc regardless. Stronghold, not a lot of cram firepower left. A lot of the missile firepower may very well be torpedoes, and those are frankly not that scary because we have a lot of torpedo poppers, and really anti-missiles are way better against torpedoes than they are against air-based missiles because you just have so much more time to kill them, and actually getting a collision is way easier. Hopefully, yeah, so I was a little bit worried about this. This might get expensive for us. Whew. If these are radar guided, okay, so they're not actually going for the Kitty Hawks. That was a concern. We went cost neutral against the Empyrean. I hope we're gonna go cost positive here. All of our vehicles are going to be helping the Tycho out, but they're close enough that I think all of our anti-missile firepower is going to help. See what we have the stronghold down to, 81%. It's usually around that time that unless you're very, very careful with how you build a craft, you're just not going to have much firepower left. Definitely at the worst part of our CWIS firing arc for those cram shells, when we were head-on to the strongholds. Definitely a little bit too much hugging going on here. This is probably costing a lot of money. But this is fairly devastating fire for a lot of enemy vehicles. Just this sort of rain of Hesh coming down. It's part of the reason that the cram firepower was lost so early, probably. It's just crippling. I do have to manually separate them after battle sometimes. Alright, much bigger miss than the previous time. At this point, it's just a matter of time for the poor stronghold. I'm actually wondering, is it faster than me? No, okay. The flagship is very slow. I was wondering if it was backing up faster than we were closing in on it. The Mobula. It's probably actually bombing the stronghold right now, but I would like to give it a little bit of fire while it's close to the Kitty Hawks. See if we can get something going on it, because binoculars.
Engaging now.
Don't know if something happened to it or not. This is not optimal flight control. So the missiles on the Mobula, I'm actually a little bit worried about the damage that they'll do to the Kitty Hawks. I do know that the Mobula does not tank railgun shells very well, as you might expect from something with this kind of thickness going on. Get these guys back. Oh, the strongholds. Strongholds despawning. Unfortunately, the Mobula is running away from us a little bit, so I'll probably cut this video clip off here and get most of my fleet rounded back up together, and hopefully the Tycho will finish off the Mobula. If she's really just completely lost flight control, I don't know what I'm going to do at a certain point. I have nothing that can chase the Mobula down. See what we're at for distance, give or take. Yeah, that's not so good. About 3 kilometers. 3 kilometers from the Tycho, a little bit further. Really getting out past her ability to do anything. Mobula seems to be coming around, though. She does make very long looping passes, but this still seems a little excessive. At the very least, it's not the worst. I don't think there's much left that's going to happen here that's terribly interesting. Oh, she actually has a little more control left than I thought. Probably had all the rotors trimmed off by the other Kitty Hawks. Okay, so I was worried this is gonna be really long, but this is over. She's returned. She's going into the water. We have plenty of detection down there. We've got torpedoes. So that's pretty much it for her. Alright, it's a new day for me. And we have spawned in our second Godly of the day. The first one was my third or fourth or however many perforator, which I just finished killing, so still a little bit of damage on some craft, but we've spawned in the Godlies, or however that's pronounced, which is predominantly a huge missile craft. So there's 1, 2, 3... Is that going to clear? Is it going to clear? I thought that was going to detonate for a second. Oh, there are more than I thought. I thought it only had 4 launch tubes. At least, it only has 4 of those big launch tubes. The other 2 must have come from somewhere else. Let's see how our missile defense holds up, and then we'll take a look at the Gaijis herself as she takes more damage. Unfortunately, the Taiko is on the opposite end of the world from this. That looks like... Is that the end of his range? Does that one just have... Nope, that's the end of all of the ranges. Oh boy. Okay, so we're fighting the Gaijis and the Goshhawk at the same time. Looks like these are not doing anything else, so they just don't have a lot of fuel. There's a lot of payload here. HE frag, it looks like. The Goshhawk is relatively not scary, I think. I'll probably want to split my vehicles
Engaging now.
between the 2 enemies.
Receiving. Engaging now.
Kitty Hawks are already coming this way.
Engaging now.
I think the Taiko can basically take the Goshhawk by herself. Let's see if we're getting any damage into the Gaijis. I really want to deal some damage to these huge missile tubes. There was a little baby missile coming out of that one, so it looks like we might have already been successful. She might actually be within range now. Okay, so we've knocked down a little bit of her missile firepower. Let's see how her defenses are. They look like they're doing okay. Oh, okay, I spoke too soon. They're not doing that well. Oh boy. Still didn't knock that much more firepower off. There are flat clouds from the sailfish trying to help with those missile defenses. Unfortunately, my render distance is not spawning in the missiles there. Taiko is taking a significant amount of damage. I'll have to bring her in for repairs after this fight if we get a chance, unlike some of the previous ones. Missiles falling short again. The range looks like it leaves a lot to be desired, especially because the Gaijis is not closing as fast as she could. She's not really a broadsider, so there's no reason that she has to approach at a shallow angle. She could just come right in. Alright, secondaries of the Taiko, I'm assuming, are what those yellow tracers are from. They must not be able to engage the Goshhawk, so they're taking their target of opportunity. Kitty Hawks are close enough. That's probably not going to last for long, and a lot of their shells are missing. The Gaijis does bounce. Yeah, that's basically superficial damage that we're getting. I'm not sure what I attached to. Is that a piece of debris? Hopefully we can slow her down a little bit and close with the Kitty Hawks. Once their CJEs are on, they're not unbearably slow, but they're not fast either. Okay, there's one huge missile launch, 2 huge missile launches. Is there a third one that's undamaged? That one has a head, so yeah, that's got to be undamaged as well. So we've not done a great job at damaging those tubes. Most of the damage has been done to the Taiko so far, it looks like, which is kind of natural. The Taiko's doing reasonably well against the Goshhawk, though. Hopefully we'll be able to get some support for her soon.
Engaging now. Command.
Yeah, we're having way too much trouble hitting the Gaijis. Both this craft are just a little too fast. What's the propulsion on this? It can't just be these jets. It looks like the CJE tubes might be doing something. It's hard to tell. What's her speed? 77? Yeah, my fleet's pretty slow. And the Taiko is starting to list. That's not looking so great. I might have to bring her in for repairs before this fight's even over. She's not a thruster brick like the Goshawk is.
Form up and fly with speed.
Get a little closer so I can actually drop a reasonable
Moving out.
point. She might not make it for repairs though. Hopefully we're in missile distance of the Goshawk, but it doesn't look that promising. Oh right, the Goshawk, for some reason I was confusing her with the... Oh no. Well, actually that might be helping us. The Braveheart, that's not a significant vehicle. Looks like we're finally getting some decent damage in. I think even with our railguns, we're just probably having trouble getting accurate fire into the Goshawk in this range. It's not a big profile, and she goes up and down and left and right. It makes her a little hard to fight unless you either get a wrap on her or simply have missiles. That looked like a shot coming in from the left from the Braveheart. Yeah, those are definitely Braveheart shells. Tycho's listing, but I think still functioning. It's just going to take her forever to rendezvous with a ship that can actually repair her. Goshawk has an incredible amount of anti-missile defense. APS is at 300 firepower right now, and it has tracers, so you can see them from a reasonable way off. The Adventure Raft might be able to fight those, even if they're pure kinetic. These missiles are a little too clustered, so they'll get taken out easier than they should, but it looks like they're making... no, I don't think any of those made it through. Yeah, they are not highly optimized for getting through the absolute massive quantity of defenses there. Looks like the Lambs is not doing anything terribly productive. Given that these shells are all heading for this turret, I doubt it's functioning anymore. It's a radar-guided missile, so we're not able to choose our target with those. I'm assuming, at least, because I told them not to attack the Gaijis. Okay, that's a pretty critical systems failure there. Not sure why the Gaijis is closing so much now. Maybe it's retargeted somewhere. It's definitely giving us a chance. How's the Tycho doing on firepower? Was that the Tycho that just came up? Because the firepower of 0 is not great. No, 262. Still not great, but at least some firepower. I'm just not sure why she's so slow. She should be at 25% speed, so something must have happened to one of her thrusters. I should probably get some of the Kitty Hawks over to her, although they're already coming this way. Definitely benefit from something that's hard to counter, like just massive particle cannons or something, because these craft are just doing a reasonable job of countering the munitions that I'm trying to fight them with.
Receiving. Engaging now.
I don't think I have a choice about what they're targeting. But hopefully they'll launch their attack while they're in a position where it's very hard to do anything about. This EMP surge is going off on the Goshawk. Okay, there we go. It must have at least been a little bit painful. We have not been that lucky at hitting the missile tubes. They're very exposed, so one good railgun shell would have taken them out pretty easily for each side, but now that she's gotten too close, missiles are doing a pretty good job. Definitely issues with surge protectors at this point. If there are remote guided missiles on the Gaijis, they're not going to be doing a lot at the moment.
Listening. Controls yours. Moving out. Listening.
Yeah, the Tycho appears to be dead in the
Controls
water.
yours. Moving out.
Oh, I need to spread the Kitty Hawks out a little bit.
Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Moving out. Listening.
Hopefully this will improve my frame rate a little bit.
Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening. Moving out. Listening.
I can't tell which one's in front. Please stop colliding with each other and give me my frames back.
Moving out. Listening. 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 Moving out. Listening. Moving out.
Okay, let's see if I can get the Tycho floating again. Kitty Hawks will keep doing some defense at the same time. The Goshawk was over there and is no longer, so yes, that is currently a water target. And that's the Gaijis, right? Yes, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna try to de-lag by giving these ships a little bit of time to despawn. Then we have a lot of repairs to do. I wonder if we'll come out of this positive. The perforators are a great supplier of resources. They go down really easily. The Gaijis and Goshawk together, that was a lot. Not just from the lag front, but they're vehicles that were not terribly well equipped to fight, and that's a lot of materials put together. Given that it's paused, I think that's just probably memory getting freed up from those vehicles getting deleted. But take a quick look around. Don't see anything else coming. Tycho's floating again. Just have to be
Listening. Moving out.
a little careful about how I spread these guys around. Especially because unless I turn movement off completely for the Tycho, which maybe I should, in which case she'll just sit in the water, she can't really sit in place because she'll just slowly push herself forward until she decides to circle around. So, not great. Braveheart, I believe, is a Godly, but is fortunately one of the smaller ones, so she's not really capable of dishing out significant damage, and the firepower coming in from this fleet should just absolutely evaporate her. Even the flak shells from the sailfish are probably not completely useless here. There's GPP coming apart, shells detonating all over. Hesh coming from the Kitty Hawk is not something the Braveheart is going to like either. She doesn't really have the volume to have the types of Hesh protection that she really needs. And even the missiles that are way too clumped up will get to her because she really only has kinetic sea-whiz as defenses for those. Torpedoes coming in, don't get to see those do much very often. Future Bungalow Bill here. It turns out I recorded a lot more footage than I thought, so I'm cutting off the first part here, with the second half coming in for the next episode. With that said, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in the future.